to Your Wealthy Self with me, Regina Martinelli. This show is about money and a whole lot more. Because in this show, we actually focus on you being able to really expand your capacity for money, success, abundance, and inner wealth. I love to share tools, insights, other people's journeys, and their tools and insights to help you have more of what's most important to you, so you too can be your wealthy self. And today we are continuing our conversation with Nisha, an intuitive guide and healer. And if you have not seen last week's show, you're not going to want to miss this. And I recommend that you watch last week's episode as well. There is so much lovely wisdom for anyone who is challenged by their journey and looking for gentle tools to have more of the life experiences that they want. So for those of you who don't know who Nisha is, she's of Illuminating Your Pathways, a certified transformational NLP master practitioner and advanced Akashic record reader and a system and family constellation facilitator. Over the years, she's trained in so many different various healings and modalities to culminate a practice of these approaches into a unique and personalized experience for you. So Nisha knows how to focus on the transformative power and truly knowing yourself, and how that self-awareness can open up the door to more prosperity, abundant life. And it's easier than you might imagine. It sounds like a lot, but it's not. So let's dive in. Hello, Nisha.
Hi, Regina.
Thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
For part 2.
Yes.
Hello. Now, this topic, I love it because it really aligns with the work that we do on this show and the topics that we deal with and helping you create a wealthy self. And so that's one of the reasons I'm excited to continue this conversation with you for part 2. Now, and I also really want to just say, I appreciate the work that you do in helping women access their wealth of wisdom within ourselves and releasing what no longer serves us.
Thank you. Yeah.
And one of the ways that you do this is with your journals that are newly published.
Available on Amazon. No.
Yes, absolutely. And also available on your website, which I'm going to pop up so people can see it, because they can find it on Amazon, but they can also find it here and find you there.
They will find me there, yes.
Perfect. And so let's dig in. So let's first start talking about relationships, transition, and healing. Isn't that one of your categories for your?
It is. Yeah. I have 2 journals in that category. And so I am single, and I mean, and a lot of my friends are single. And I find that we have these similar conversations. It's either like a post-breakup conversation, or it's a, why do I keep going out with guys like this? Those are kind of the conversations. And so I decided to create 2 different journals. One was just to process the post-breakup experience, right? We all have something different going on. Or the relationship could be 3 months, it could be 3 years. We may want to still be friends with our ex. We may not. And so, the post-breakup boundaries guide is really about understanding, kind of finding yourself, finding your way back to yourself, and then understanding what you're going to need in this post-breakup phase. And then, as sometimes happens with some of my girlfriends, there's this topic of, he was just like the last 3 guys. And so when they kind of come to that realization, I wanted to create the relationship pattern reset. It's really about breaking the toxic cycles of love, and really kind of exploring what it is you're attracted to, what family patterns may be informing some of those patterns and attractions, and then what healthier patterns you want to have, and kind of how that transition would work for you, to really finding a more healthy relationship and creating more healthy dynamic in your next relationship. So those 2 journals are really close to my heart, and for my girlfriends,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We've all been through that, right?
We sure have.
And it gets this place of like, oh, don't tell me I picked my father. Or like my mother, whoever it is. And breaking that pattern is, like we talked about in the first episode, it's a way to then align more with who you are and what you want in life instead of,
Yeah.
picking something that's somebody else's path.
Yes, and one of the, like, on a side topic, and one of the questions, the way the questions kinds of works is, it's really about, so many of us know early on, right? And then we bury it and we bury it, right? Like, the red flags were there, the curiosity of, like, wait a minute, is this like, it was all there and we just pushed past it.
Yeah.
And I think that the part of the purpose of the journal is to really bring that into our awareness. So the next time you go out and you start dating and that happens, you're like, wait a minute, I wrote about this. I wrote 2 pages about how I did this last time and how I'm not going to do it this time, right? And so it's really like bringing this into conscious awareness. So, that's really the hope, right?
I love it. Yeah, because what's the arc that you're hoping that someone will go through as they, go through this journal about, relationships?
Yeah, I think the arc I'm hoping for all of my journals is actually some kind of pattern recognition, right? Because I think that when you're going through life and you feel like stuff is just coming at you, it can feel really chaotic, and you feel like you don't have control, you don't know how to manage things. But when you go through the journals and if you recognize the pattern within the experiences, you can track it. You can say, wait a minute, I know this pattern. I've lived through this pattern. And now I can disconnect or do something different than I've done before.
Mhm.
And so it's really, the goal is to have some kind of self awareness and pattern recognition for yourself.
Oh, that's really helpful and so beautiful. For
Yeah.
someone who's looking at, these two types of journals, whether it's relationship transition and the healing collection of relationship pattern reset or post breakup boundaries guide, what would you say, would be, what would you say would be, how would I choose between the two of those?
Well, so, I think in our last episode, we talked about manageable chunks, right? Or manageable size. And so, where are you? Like, are you still processing your last breakup? Because if you are, go with the post breakup, right? If you feel like you've processed it enough and you're ready to get back out there and make different choices, then go with the relationship pattern reset, because now you're trying to reset the pattern that you've had, right? So it's like, where are you in your process? Is it and let that inform which one you pick.
Got it. Oh, that's so fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah.
And is there anything else you want to say about that particular set?
No, it's just
Great.
the one that I really thought about my girlfriends while I was putting together. So I wanted to, yeah.
Oh my God, that's so wonderful. So then can we jump into the personal development and self, what do you call it? Sorry, personal,
Self-trust.
yeah, and self-trust. Because that's a big deal. Self-trust and personal development. And you have the most in this category. Why do you think you have the most in this category?
Because we got a lot of stuff, girl. Because one of the things that we did talk about in the last one was the right chunk size, right? And
Yeah.
what I wanted to do was kind of meet people with what was going on for them, right? So some people, and I'll just kind of go through like the different versions um, of the journals that I have. So some people are dealing with abandonment issues, right? So I wanted to have, yes, and you have that one. There you go. So I wanted to thank you. I wanted to help people address the abandonment issues in whatever way they were coming up, whether it was in terms of a friend circle or in terms of a relationship or what have you. I wanted them to be able to focus on that piece of their life. Then I have some people that feel like they're never recognized, and they're going through these approval seeking behaviors, and they always feel like other people get recognized but they don't get recognized. And I wanted to help them address that story and that narrative in their life. And so I have the recognition reset, and it's about really recognizing yourself and understanding where the roots of those recognition and the desire for recognition are coming from. So, there's that journal. Yeah.
Gosh, I just want to say how powerful that is, the recognition reset, because there's so many times we look outside of ourselves for approval,
Mhm.
for value, and for to be seen and
Absolutely.
respected. And
Yeah.
then there's this whole movement of like, oh, you offended me because you didn't, acknowledge me in a certain way.
Yes.
Not everybody in the world's job to know how to acknowledge every other person on the planet.
Right.
And there's this place of when you go inside, you actually have limitless amount of recognition available to you and
Yeah.
acknowledgement and value. But when you try to go outside and try to control or, work with someone to give it to you, it's very limited and it's like a dance you never stop dancing.
Absolutely, and it's really you've hit on this external versus internal reference, right, for it.
Mhm.
And so I think that the goal of that journal is to help you shift from the external reference of recognition to the internal reference of recognition. And because it's only going to be a losing game with the external reference of recognition, right? No one's going to recognize you the way you think, the way it should be, the way, and so it's really the goal of the recognition reset is to reset from external recognition to internal recognition based. So that's my second one on the list that I have so far. Go
Great.
ahead.
Can
Yeah,
I ask a couple more questions
please do.
for our viewers?
Yeah.
They're all amazing. So I just want to dig in a little bit more because it's so fun. And when someone has actually started to step into that process more and start to really own the recognition reset, what is
Mhm.
that like for them when they like, what is that experience like?
I think it's finding ways to recognize your own value
Mm,
um, and your own worth, right? Rather than allowing for others to say what you've done is worthy or recognize its value. And
mhm.
so it's really this shift of I am like my actions are important and I can take like I am valued. I value what I do, and even if some it's really that piece of I would say like self-worth and self-recognition of really
Taking
first,
like, yeah.
yeah, of because it's really I find that oftentimes they just want to know that they've done a good job,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes it's because you can't feel like you've done a good job, that you need someone else to tell you you've done a good job. So the recognition reset is really about like, what is it going to mean for you to feel like you've done a good job? What does it mean for you to, what's it going to mean for you to acknowledge that you're good enough, that what you've done is good enough, and that it's a value? Yeah.
And that is so important because when we externalize it and we're looking outside of ourselves, we can project it onto bosses, coworkers, partners,
Mhm.
spouses, family,
Absolutely.
and it's not their job. And
Mhm.
there's a place where I find when we project it, especially like on someone in an authority position, we're basically projecting what we wanted from our parents that we didn't get as a child, and we felt wounded, and we're trying to heal that wound, and it's the inappropriate place for that to go.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It makes me very excited about your journals because now it's a chance to go inward for that healing and inward to find it. And once you grok that, then it's for life.
And to your point, some of the questions, some of the prompts actually do address how recognition was done in your family of origin, right? Like how did your parents recognize you, right? Like what did recognition mean in your family? And
Mhm.
so there we do explore where you came from, right? Like what are the roots and foundations, not just where you are now, but like what kind of informed all of this up and along the way. So yeah, so it is this kind of just this beautiful unveiling and revealing of like what is and how it's gotten to be this way.
It's so beautiful. And I want to share too with, the ones that I bought. And then I bought one for girlfriend and one for myself. They are so gentle for people who are like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't know that I want to look there. Cause kind of our resistance of like taking action and going like, I don't want to change. It's actually incredibly gentle. It's private. It's yours.
Yeah.
It's a really, really well done journal. And I'd love to chat about, I'm trying to get this, self trust, because
Yeah,
I feel like after you go from, recognition reset, you're like, okay, now I have to trust myself in these actions and the
yeah,
decisions. And,
yeah. And I think that kind of the question that I think the frame of mind I was trying to really support with the self trust blueprint was, why do I keep getting it wrong,
mm,
right?
mhm,
Or why do I keep making, why does it feel like I can't make the right decision? And it was really about acknowledging all the places that, and again, this is a generalization that we've made, right? Like, you've never made a right decision, right? Ever. And so it's really about kind of recognizing the pain of the things that didn't go the way you thought they should, and then like really reinvestigating and exploring what has gone right, and how maybe you may have like gotten off course because you thought you should do something else, and really coming back into that inner wisdom that you
mhm,
have, that you may have actually turned off,
mhm.
and having the confidence to actually follow that inner wisdom. And so it's really about that piece.
Oh,
Um,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think what I want to say is that I think we all have this inner wisdom, and sometimes when it's this self trust thing, it's we've been told, no, you can't do that. Don't do it that way, right? And it's like, no, like we're reclaiming that inner wisdom, right? It's like it's moving away from the don't do it like that, from the voices that told you you couldn't trust yourself and you couldn't do it a certain way, and to really reclaim that piece for yourself. And so that's really what the self trust blueprint. That was my hope for the self trust blueprint, was that arc.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
yeah,
And it's interesting 'cause I could hear it even in another way that we may not tie to it, which is like when you're growing up and your parents say, "Oh, be careful. Oh, be careful." So
yeah,
then you can't trust yourself to walk across the log and not fall off, or to use a knife when it's appropriate. Like there's this thing like, "Oh, be careful," because we're worried about, the parents worry about what that's going to do, whether it's you get muddy or you
yeah,
hurt yourself or whatever it is. And so then there's this, I can't trust myself because I have to be careful and what could happen, and it takes you out of that wisdom. So it's
yeah.
so, yeah.
Well, and I think the other piece that I would say is that sometimes, like, they have, we talked about this in our last episode, this conflicting views about like what life and joy should be like, right? And so, like, you may think, oh, this was going to be amazing and it's going to be joyful. And your parents are like, no, no, we don't do that in this family, right? And you're like, and so now, like, it breaks that form of trust of like, oh, we don't do that in this family. But like, you think it's going to bring you this joy, and it would have if you had just followed that inner wisdom and you had been able to trust yourself. So it's actually just kind of reconnecting those pieces in that way as well.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, because we then deny our inner wisdom to
Yeah,
be part of a family and belong to a family, and
but
then
to
we
be
don't know how to get
whole,
back.
yeah,
Yeah.
to be
And
whole.
it's what I've done, on a side note with my son. Instead of like, be careful with that knife, I'll say, respect the knife. Whatever you push it through, it will cut. So just respect, like, don't put your fingers under it because it
Yeah,
will cut through it. That is
yeah,
the
yeah,
nature of a knife. And it changes the verbiage so then
yeah,
we can hold on to more of our self-trust and our, and that wisdom, and then,
yeah.
get into our own self-advocacy of,
Yeah, well, and also like exploration, right? Now you can have the right to like explore with the knife, with respect of the knife, right?
yes. Oh my God, I love it. Well, we are getting closer on time. So, what
Yeah.
else in this genre of personal development and self trust collection would you like to touch upon or talk about?
Yeah, so I have one that's called the Rejection Recovery Guide. And it's for people that feel like they hear no all the time, right? And
Mhm.
that they're rejected. And it can be not just in dating, but it can be in life in general. And then I have the Resiliency Roadmap, which is just about sometimes people feel like there's so much adversity in life, and how are they going to make it through? And so just kind of retapping in, it's a little different than the than the self trust, but it's more about your capacity to go through life and be able to handle it. And then the last one in the category is the self advocacy blueprint, which is just empowering your voice and allowing for you to find your voice to say what you feel needs to be said and being able to advocate for yourself.
Mm. Oh, that's so wonderful. And there's so many books in there. It's great. I could see how they also follow their own arc of going
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then there's another collection that I think is also very powerful is Family Dynamics in Life Transitions.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. I have, so I recently, my parents are getting older, and part of, one of the things I was really working through is, what does that mean? And so I actually created the Caring for Aging Parents journal, because I think that so many of us are kind of in this place where, like, what does it mean for me to be the caregiver and really kind of process that experience? I also know a lot of friends that are going through divorce, and they have children. So, I have the co-parenting one, so they can really understand what's important for them as a person, right? Not what's best for their children, but what's best for them in terms of boundaries and healthy boundaries and what they need. And then the last one is actually navigating family gatherings. And it's, I wrote this one around Thanksgiving and Christmas where people were getting together. And I was like, sometimes you just want to understand what boundaries you can have and deal with the anxiety and the feelings that are coming up. So whether it's the holidays or it's a wedding or what have you, if you feel like you need to process the experience of having to be with your family, this can help you with that.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Because there's always a holiday, a birthday, or a family celebration coming
Yeah.
up. So, yeah, thank you. And then the last genre is career and life direction. So tell us what
Yeah.
those books in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think I'm going to develop more into this category, but right now it's really about, sometimes people come to me and they're like, I really want to quit my job. And I'm like, what's going on, right? And it's really about understanding the navigating the crossroads in that career, right? And so it's about, as part of the arc of that journal is really also exploring what part of, like, how is work viewed in your family, right? How is, what's led you to this place in career? What patterns are being repeated? And if is this really about your workplace, or is this about how you approach life and work? So it's really, so that's one of the journals is the crossroads, navigating the crossroads of your career path, and then the other one is just navigating anxiety in the workplace. And this goes back to, like, the recognition and the self trust, right? But this is definitely more focused around the workplace, and dealing with that dynamic rather than just the general self trust dynamic, that you deal with in everyday life in other occasions. So, yeah.
Got it. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. So, Nisha, there's a question as we wrap up that I ask all of my guests. In your life, how do you create your wealthy self?
I I think the way I would say I create my wealthy self is by knowing myself, because there's such a wealth of experience that we all have, and should have access to. And the more you know yourself, and the more comfortable you are with who you are and where you are in life, the more abundant you can feel in all things.
Ah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Well, thank you, Nisha, for being here with us today and creating these lovely, lovely journals to help us into healing in a private and personal way that feels safe. Not to mention, these are great gifts. So if you want to find out more about Nisha and working with her or her journals, you can go to illuminateyourpathways.com. And if you got something from today's show, please share it, especially if there's someone out there who could benefit from it. And you can send your questions here. And here we go. And if you, let's see. Oh, yeah. And thank you for being with us today. I look forward to seeing all of you next time, where we continue to delve into creating your wealthy self your way.